Dear friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of organizations, I would like to welcome all of you today to discuss on shrinking democracy in Azerbaijan. The event is organized by the Institute for Human Rights and will be moderated by me, Mehman Hüseyinov, Azerbaijan activist, journalist and blogger. We are going to focus today on the rule of law, democratic elections and freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. Our panelists will tell us more about the gross human rights violations in Azerbaijan, and at the end of the discussion there will be a question and answer session where you will be able to ask some questions or make remarks. Among our speakers, Abid Gafarov, human rights activist, former prisoner of conscience, who has just recently been released after serving the sentence on the defamation charges. Ibad Bayramov, human rights activist, son of imprisonment Gubat Badoglu, political activist, human rights defender. Emin Hüseyinov, journalist, human rights defender, and CEO of IRFS. I would like to note that this event is being recorded, and with no further hesitation, I open our panel and give floor for Mr. Gafarov.
Thank you, and I'd like to greet everyone and thank you for your participation. So, using the opportunity and sharing the situation around Azerbaijan and especially on the media, around the journalists and bloggers, and especially the crimes which is happening under the law. I mean the tortures during the investigations by police or prosecution officers. So this actually was the reason I was arrested. As a journalist and founder of Caspian Information Center, we started to concentrate on the tortures, and especially the big-scale tortures happened back in 2017, and about 1,700 soldiers were subject to the tortures. So, and unfortunately, 9 people officially were killed under the tortures. And we started investigating this case alongside with other YouTube channels, Azza Freedom TV and Kin TV, which actually belongs to Caspian Information Center. And during our investigations, after we finding the people who were tortured or whose family member were killed under the tortures, and questioning them, interviewing them, and then publishing them on YouTube channel or the articles about it, we used to receive lots of threats in order to stop this investigation, not to go further, and especially before us, human rights defender Oktay Gulaliev, who was investigating this case, this crime. Actually, he had accident, he was hit by a car, then he was in coma for 2 years, and now he's awake, but he cannot control himself. Anyway, we just kept going on the investigation, and every time when we found out new person who actually was subject to the tortures, actually it was horrifying. Only the big list of the tortures you cannot even imagine, just a couple of them, a simple of them: removal of the finger and toe nails, and applying the electricity, removal the teeth and applying the electricity from there, or burning the plastic and pouring it on body, etc., etc. So believe me, this is like magazine according to what else we have in our list. So shortly, physical, mental and sexual tortures were applied to the soldiers, and for some of them even family members, female family members. But While we were successful in initiating a new investigation, because in 2018 there was investigation, but government declared that everything is done and dusted, but we found out new people who were tortured. Unfortunately, the high-ranking officials and generals who were organizing these tortures are still in freedom and in charge. Meanwhile, the people or journalists who are investigating actually were present. One of them was our journalist of Caspian Information Center, İlham Aslanoğlu, and he was actually arrested on fabricated defamation charges over and over again, and he's still in the prison. And imagine that he was arrested just one day before his son's wedding party, just to indicate that there is nothing important for the government. So it's not just this case. All our family members actually were subject to further persecution. 3 of my kids actually were fired from a private school just a couple of weeks before I was arrested. Or the director of the Caspian Information Center, Rabin Mammadov, one of his daughters actually was fired from work, and another one from university. So it seems that this is a common way in order to impact the journalists and the ones who are investigating this crime. And of course, it is not just us investigating this case. Lots of people were involved as a human rights defenders. I've already mentioned Oktay Gülaliyev and also Leyla Yunus, who is the head of Institute of Peace and Democracy. Areston Oruçlu also is the expert for the security, and other TV channels or YouTube channels were supporting us for the information in Azerbaijan. One of them was Hural TV, whose owner and host is already in prison, Avaz Zeynalli. And as per his family members, he was arrested also for these military crimes and tortures, because he was supporting this investigation and inviting the people and making the discussions regarding these tortures and crimes. So, make it short, regarding the arrests, so anyone who is arrested as a journalist or bloggers is not facing the good life in the prison. I'll share just small experience from my life in the prison. For 4 days I had high temperature, about 39 degrees centigrade, but I couldn't receive any medical treatment in the prison. And fourth day it increased to 40 degrees centigrade, and I was evacuated to the hospital. And after a couple of days receiving the treatment, I survived the clinical death because of the blood pressure dropped to 60 to 20. Of course, the government refused it, saying that no, there wasn't any case of the clinical death. But I know what happened there, and next day, doctor told me what happened, and lots of prisoners actually witnessed. Anyway, after 24 hours, without any further medical treatment, I was sent back to the colony. So it is obvious that I wasn't receiving, so my right for life, my right for health was jeopardized by the government. So now you can imagine, so what's the life as a journalist in Azerbaijan. So that's why there are lots of journalists and bloggers and human rights defenders actually moved abroad and working from different countries. For example, Gurban Mammadov, who is owning and hosting the Azer Freedom TV, who continues actually this investigation about the tortures. But as for us, Caspian Information Center, there is no way to continue it. There is no way. And I'm a writer, I'm currently writing third book, and my second book is especially about the tortures and what people felt when they were tortured. And I managed to describe all kinds of the tortures, and I'm not sure if any publish house will actually publish it, because there are some things that you cannot even imagine. And by our government, I was warned that if this book is published, I'm going to be arrested again. So this is the situation. And unfortunately, at the moment, quite a number of journalists are in the prison, and I mentioned Avaz Zeynalli, and he has issue with his eyes, and it is more than a year he's in prison, and there is no any final statement on it, just under investigation. And after numerous times of applying to the Human Rights Commissioner, or Ombudsman, as we call it, only recently representative of the Human Rights Commissioner office visited him, which is very frustrating. And I have never received anyone from the Human Rights Commissariat in the Azerbaijan. Voice of America, all the media actually announced that I survived the clinical death. Family members, my lawyers, public activists actually officially applied, saying that some of my vital rights, right for life and health, jeopardized, but I never received anyone. So still, I haven't received proper medical treatment, and I still have some problems in my right side of the body. So that's it. If you have any questions regarding what we discussed, quite big list actually of the journalists in prison: Avaz Zeynalli, İlham Hasanoğlu, Polad Aslanov, Mahir Elekberov, Samir Ashurov, Afgan Khanaliyev, Camil Mehmedli, Nurlan Kahramanlı, and many more. And it seems that it will just keep continuing if there is no any intervention or international focus on the subject. Any questions? Thank you.
I just want to say that talk about freedom of speech and press freedom, and talk about the real situation in Azerbaijan here in Warsaw is too dangerous, because last year our friend Bakhtiar Hajiev, who he's an activist, who was talked about the political prisoners, who was talked about the freedom of speech in Azerbaijan, and as soon as he get back to Azerbaijan, he was detained by the fake charge. Today he is in prison, and Mr. Gafarov, be careful, be careful. Now I want to give floor to son of Mr. Gubat Ibanoglu, and I would like to ask you to give us an update on the current health condition of your father, and more details describe the illegal detention of Mr. Gubat Ibanoglu.
Thank you. I would like to talk about my father's fate, who has been unlawfully imprisoned in Azerbaijan since July 23rd. Dr. Gubat is a renowned economic scholar and civil rights defender who is also one School of Economics and Political Science visiting fellow. Instead of continuing his research on corruption, embezzlement, and money laundering, and teaching students at the university, Dr. Gubat is in detention center waiting for his trial to be imprisoned up to 12 years. Dr. Gubat is punished as a government critic and for his further investigation of the elite's illegal assets abroad. Dr. Gubat is an advocate of sustainable development goals and human rights. Dr. Gubat has been in exile since 2015, but in the recent period, he has been assured especially by the Congos, that the government has changed their directions, and under the new reforms, the social activists won't see jail time once they come back to the country. Under this talk with the Congos, he came back to the country in early July, and 20 days after coming back to Azerbaijan, Dr. Ibadov and his wife were brutally arrested by the Azerbaijani police, who physically and psychologically abused them. They were kept separate with no access to lawyers for hours. Despite they released my mother, the psychological abuse that she saw from the Azerbaijan police still haunts her till this day. Azerbaijan government has used their media channels to publish propaganda about Dr. Ibadov, accusing him of being extremist religious, selling counterfeit money, planning to do coup d'etat in Azerbaijan, all nonsense allegations that have been echoed several times by the Azerbaijan government. The fake witness claimed that Dr. Gubat was preparing for protest in autumn in the court, despite the fact that Dr. Gubat was planning to travel to Germany, Dresden, to start his research program at the Dresden University of Technology at the end of August. All our requests for house arrest are denied without justification by the local courts. Our main concern about Dr. Gubat is his health conditions. He suffers from high diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and kidney diseases, and must be under strict diet and doctor examination. His health is deteriorating rapidly. He has developed a dysfunction in his left heart, and further dilution of the aorta vein in his heart might lead to the heart attack. This is why European Court of Human Rights have decided on the Rule 39 on 20th of September that Dr. Gubat must have the access to adequate medical examination and adequate treatment, and if needed, he must be read to the hospital for surgery at early stage. And apart from that, European Parliament has adopted an early resolution on the 14th of September 2023 demanding Dr. Ibadov's unconditional release. Despite all this, Azerbaijan government has not taken any concrete steps, and Dr. Ibadov stays under the dire conditions in prison under fabricated charges. International Committee of Red Cross Baku office tried to visit Dr. Gubat 3 times, lastly in the 1st of September, but they were denied, despite the fact that they were in the detainment center, but they were denied from seeing Dr. Gubat. Dr. Gubat's lawyer's request to see his medical results were denied 21 times. Azerbaijan government has blocked any attempts for an independent organization to examine Dr. Gubat and keeps falsifying his medical records to show his conditions satisfactory. And as we are not able to get medical results from the Azerbaijan government, we are not able to get a new prescription in order to get him new medications, which is quite dangerous because his health conditions are deteriorating rapidly every day, and without new medications, we are not able to help him. And he's not the only one in Azerbaijan facing jail time due to exercising their freedom of expression. He's not the only one in Azerbaijan facing jail time under fabricated charges and denied access to necessary medications. There are cases like Nazim Baydamiri, who is an environmental defender, Afiyatin Mammadov, who was detained for supporting the union, and Nemat Abbasov, who was against the war, and Bakhtir Hajiev, as colleagues mentioned before, who was against Azerbaijan government policies. In Azerbaijan, you could get detained for expressing your freedom of speech. In fact, since last September 2022, in the last 12 months, the number of political prisoners in Azerbaijan has more than doubled, reaching an astonishing number of 210. And in the last 2 weeks, more than 5 activists were arrested due to expressing their thoughts. The numbers are likely to grow as the government has taken radical shifts towards the more authoritarian ruling. I think it's obvious that the way Azerbaijan government has been treating Dr. Gubat and other political prisoners shows that Azerbaijan government has become more authoritarian, and it's an issue because especially with my father, we are worried about his health conditions. We are worried that he has been asking for a doctor for the past 5 days, but he is not getting any treatment. And despite all the European Courts of Human Rights decision and the European Parliament decision, nothing is changing. And we are quite worried that at this rate, Azerbaijan government is trying to basically break the will of political prisoners who is fighting for the better future of Azerbaijan, just people like Dr. Gubaydullah. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I give floor to Emin Hüseyinov, human rights defender, and also we have friends from Azerbaijan. They also can share information about the democratic institutions in Azerbaijan. So, Emin, can you please share with us what's the problems of democratic institutions in Azerbaijan?
First of all, I would like to remind for it's almost 30 years, same ruling occupy democracy in Azerbaijan. The first 10 years from 2000, from 93 until 2003, its father, Heydar Aliyev, who is the former head of the Soviet Republic from 1969 until 89. And after 2 or 3 years, like short real independence, we have the same ruling power, which is like changed themselves and declared as like Democrats. And from 1993 until 2003, Heydar Aliyev promoted his son as like first prime minister, member of parliament, and delivered his power as like exactly the same scenario what's happened in Syria when Assad's father delivered ruling power to his son. Same scenario, and last 20 years from 2003 until today, we have President Aliyev, who triple times changed constitutions since our membership in the Council of Europe and violate our strong obligation, not commitments, in front of the Council of Europe. We have regrets with non-governmental law, non-profit law, with media access law for access to information, and two ridiculous changes what has happened. It's law regarding political parties, which is started like work since the beginning of this year, and until in the middle of this year, number of political parties increased twice. At least half of them decided to close, and current regulations and rules allow to the government re-examine even registered parties after few months. They have a serious, powerful legal tools to destroy any parties, even like 3 parties like Popular Front Party or Musavat Party or Republican Alternative Party. As we know, they are trying to keep their partly independence. But we believe with these kinds of conditions, this party is already under serious future threats. Regarding this law, already all serious institutions such kind of Venice commissions or office Udir, they are declared for this against obligation of Azerbaijan in front of the Council of Europe, including OSCE. Today, we would like to mention also, as my colleagues said, for it's more than political prisoners situation is extremely difficult, and 210 political prisoners, it's only visible part of the iceberg. I want to say it's like from these 210 political prisoners, 150 is peaceful believers, and hundreds of people which is arrested with affiliation of this religion group. Sometimes government blames them for their like pro-Iranian or pro some Muslim oriented movement. Capacity of the Azerbaijan civil society even not enough to calculate all of the numbers of political prisoners, like exactly situation like in Belarus when local human rights group able to calculate 1,500 political prisoners, but all of us knows for these numbers of political prisoners can be at least 3 or 4 times higher. Related with situation with pluralism, as like we government recently also start implement online limitation with online freedoms. Until today, as my colleague also said, since recent war activities in the Karabakh region started from 19 to 20 September of this month. Government first of all blocked YouTube and popular services as like other popular services of Google. And I think today TikTok, one of the popular social media, still under block. And we don't have, as my colleague said, big hopes for in the next upcoming future when Azerbaijan is supposed to organize elections like local, parliamentary and presidential elections, which is supposed to happen on 2024-2025. Government increases limitation of this space in online. As colleague mentioned, shrinking space with civil society, with democratic institution. I would like to especially mention Bakhtiar Hajiev, which is also one of the speakers on our side event in this room a year ago. Unfortunately, you see we have a limited numbers with of tables. Otherwise, we can put Bakhtiar's pictures as well. With Bakhtiar and Avazi now related with political prisoners problem. These two famous political prisoners always get second term. It's like revolving door effect when you release under international law and after 1 decade you are arrested again. It's Bakhtiar is prisoner of conscience in 2011 and he released in 2013 and now 10 years after he get again this fabricated politically motivated charges, and it's revolving door also continued with civil society. The criminal cases which they are used abusing of power, tax evasion and illegal activities as the government initiated against us in 2014 and 13 when all famous human rights defenders and journalists detained and imprisoned for a few years and released after international strong campaign. Right now we have a new scenario, exactly the same scenario. Same scenario with revolving door principle started against civil society leaders. They started using affiliation with foreign donors, and as like Bakhtiar, which is implemented two projects with European Endowment for Democracy, which is part of the European Union, Azerbaijan part of the Eastern Partnership Program. Azerbaijan always declared we are looking forward to engage with the European Union. Ali government on the same time declare for institution which is supported by European Union, they are illegal. And that's why we call to all stakeholders to evaluate all of promises which is Azerbaijan government declared in the beginning of this year when they say for all case against NGOs is closed. And I would like to remind for reason why Gubadi Badoğlu returned back to Azerbaijan, because in May of this year, general prosecutor invited few representatives of Azerbaijan civil society to the meeting, and they say, guys, we would like to open new book in engagement with the civil society, forget about all problems, everyone in exile able to return back to the country. And they say, we're closing this NGO case, which is still many independent NGOs have frozen bank accounts, closed offices in Azerbaijan. And Gubadi Badoğlu believed to this unreal promises and back to the country, and you know what's happened with them. I think it's better we have few colleagues from Azerbaijan, as Mehman said, if any of our colleagues have any alternative view or opinions on situation or have a say on remark or questions, we're happy to respond. In the end of my statement, I try to remind because that's for only for long-term repression against civil society. Azerbaijan membership debriefed in AITI, Extractive Industrial Transparency Initiative, in 2016, and today, after long period, finally Azerbaijan recently kicked out from Open Government Partnership. And in the condition what we have in Karabakh right now, when Aliyev tried to position himself as like victory deal maker, we expect more pressure against independent civil society, because now it's time to ask Aliyev about transparency, accountability. And I just would like to mention one serious point. For last 3 years, since Second Karabakh War, Azerbaijani government spent $7 billion, as Aliyev declared a few days ago on urban forum, which is organized in Zangilan. He said, we spent $7 billion, but he didn't organize even one tender. Just like it's good questions from civil society right now to ask this government, which is always manipulated with Karabakh issues for. When we ask about transparency and accountability, they say, we are staying in the war with our neighbor. That's why we can't declare everything. But now, we hope in the future we have a sustainable and long-term peace. And anyone, we are afraid for everyone who's, because it's like logically to ask right now government to be more transparent and accountable, to create more good governance, as like Bakhtiar Rajiv or other colleagues, Gubat Badoglu asked to do from Azerbaijan government. And we are afraid for anyone who continue to repeat these questions about good governance, accountability, transparency, receive more threats. And we call to our international partners, to like-minded states, to European Union, UK, US, Canada, and other democratic states for closely observe what's happened with independent civil society and increase support to limited independent voices inside the country, and also support independent civil society voices in exile, and promote same support what they're doing in relations, how they support civil society, Russian civil society in exile, and how they support Belarusian civil society in exile. Because we have sometimes double standard, because our oil and gas, for example, European Union, they're not very happy about, they even don't make a call on program. Imagine 6 countries which is members of the Eastern Partnership program, and Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia, Moldova, and Ukraine, and Belarus. And if we calculate all public calls, which is announced by European Commission, which is biggest donor, it's uncomparable small percentage to public calls on Azerbaijan. And we say for guys, at least we understand for it's difficult for European Union even operate in Belarus when 99% of the civil society decide to live in exile. Could you please at least think about alternative? And since Azerbaijan member of the Eastern Partnership program, and Azerbaijan recently 2 years ago joined a very famous new established European political community, which is in the future supposed to replace OEC, we call to European partners to push to Aliyev and calling to release all our imprisoned colleagues, give all civil freedoms in Azerbaijan, and recover all our rights according to European Convention for Human Rights. Because we are part of the Council of Europe, we have highest human rights and democracy standard according to European Convention for Human Rights. But what unfortunately we see, since we get membership, every year since our 22 years membership in the Council of Europe, we have lack of the opportunities which is we have even 20 years ago. I'm finished my statement. Thanks a lot, and I'm sorry for a little bit pessimistic.
Yeah. As I said, there's a lot of friends from civil society of Azerbaijan, and I will give floor for them. And now it's interesting for me, so I want to give a question to Emin, who is living abroad, and to Mr. Gafarov, who is inside Azerbaijan. So always when we are talking about the human rights situation and political prisoners in Azerbaijan, the ruling regime always says that now our main problem is Karabakh. Let's focus on Karabakh problem. So now it seems that this Karabakh problem is almost done, and I want to ask how you see the future of human rights situation in Azerbaijan after the war. Is there any hope that there will be some positive changes in Azerbaijan?
Unfortunately, until peaceful agreement didn't sign between Armenia and Azerbaijan, in fact, its war is not finished. It's like one of the parts that therefore we have solved the problem, which is Azerbaijan. And we will see what's happened in next upcoming days in Granada, when the European political community invited also Pashinyan and Erdogan and also Aliyev, this head of the state will be there. And also also another situation in Armenia, when today Armenia ratified Roma status, which is their accept jurisdiction of International Court for Human Rights, which is make a special order under Putin. And maybe this reason will be give some kind of new situation when Russia tried to destabilize the political situation in Armenia, and they tried to operate with the regional power to make some kind of provocation in the region. Until this problem until today is not solved, but we hope in the future Armenia, Azerbaijanis, Georgians, we will live in the same region, we will live in the long-term peace. But unfortunately, today we didn't see solutions, and even like I'm always say for Azerbaijan, if we want to live in an inclusive community, we need to respect, first of all, civil rights. And sometimes power will be grateful we able to provide the volunteers. As you say, for Azerbaijan, it's a huge prison, 10 million prisoners. When Azerbaijan released, sometimes I have one friend, famous journalist, Mehman Ali, head of the Turan News Agency, and I'm asking for, you are one of the respectful men in Azerbaijani history, what's happened? And you will never believe you are arrested. He arrested like a few years ago. He's under international prison release. He said, you know, man, it's nothing different. It's like prison is a small prison, and many of my colleagues, like brave colleagues in Azerbaijan, they say, for no matter in Azerbaijan, even you live inside this big prison, until we not implement our civil rights in Azerbaijan, it's difficult to respond to your questions. But let's ask people maybe.
Abid, the same question is to you. How you see the future of human rights situation in Azerbaijan?
Thank you, but I think that I will be even more pessimist because at the moment we have several human rights activists and human rights defenders and politicians, journalists. They are actually detained, but there is no final charge from the court. For example, Avaz Zeynalli is more than 1 year under investigation. Bakhtiyar Rajiyev, more than 10 or 9 months, but not even one court, one meeting for the court occurred. And after Karabakh is finished and we freed our occupied territory, and after the president gathered the very high rating within the country, now he can very easily charge them for 10, 12, 8, 15 years easily. This was all and manipulating that, with people saying that Europe is bad, France is bad, United States bad, they are envy because, have a look, France was fighting Great Britain for 116 years, but we managed to push our occupied enemies for 44 days, long live the king. So this is what I think will happen. And regarding another subject that which Emin mentioned, if you are wearing a beard and you are a socially active person, government can easily get you into the prison by calling you Iranian spy, because we don't have very good relationship with Iran. So, or put you in jail as a drug dealer. And lots of people are in the jail, arrested, religious people, just peaceful religious people, but they don't want to see that kind of country. The soldiers are raped, tortured, killed. The bright people, like writers or poets, are in prison, jailed, killed, and they are protesting.
There are 15 minutes.
Okay, they are protesting and in social media. So more than maybe 1,000 of people arrested as a drug dealer. They are religious, but most of their families been threatened not to socialize it. Otherwise, we will put him into the jail for 12 years. If you keep silence, 5 years. If you just dare to talk about it, 12 years. Friend of mine, writer of 4 books, been arrested with 30 grams of drugs as a drug dealer and awaiting to get the charge between 5 to 12 years. I met his family and afforded the support. They said that no, if we talk about it, they will charge him 12 years. So now you see how the families of the people are kept in the threat. And yes, this is a big prison. Azerbaijan is a big prison that you can be tortured, killed, raped, and whatever bad things you can and cannot imagine can easily face you. Thank you.
So, if you have questions or make remarks, please let us know.
No questions, I can add one thing response. If before, as like Karabakh issues is partly solved as government declared, if before the last 20 years, when we exposed like caviar diplomacy in 2013, when Azerbaijan government bribed European politicians, members of the Council of Europe Parliamentary Assembly, they said, please keep calm, don't share awareness around this problem. We bribed these politicians because they try to strong Armenian lobby versus against Azerbaijan. We try to bribe them. They use our short way to buy their loyalties, which is for us is absolutely not true. They bribe politicians for get positive statements and to extend legitimacy of Aliyev regime in Azerbaijan. And right now, if before they tell for 20 years to 30 years, we spend money, we steal money just for, we try to make stronger Azerbaijan. Right now, they have, I'm afraid, for that will start to look, we deliberate 20% of our territory, now we need infrastructural investment. Infrastructural investment, we need to build new cities, houses, villages. But in fact, after second deliberation in 2020, only a few companies which is affiliated with Aliyev family, they created huge agro parks, industrial parks, and they get multi-billion businesses on the occupied territories under their own interest. And regular people, even until today, after 3 years, they are not able to return back to Karabakh. And I'm afraid they also increase numbers on the villages. It's like, which is very important with local community and government. Let's say in the one district, if previously they have 90 villages, somehow they calculate that we don't need the 90 villages, now we need only 30 villages. But 6 territory of the 60 villages, they try to privatize, using for their mining companies, for their agricultural companies, and it's good opportunities, I think. And again, we need to ask more accountability. But it's difficult to us to doing this alone, and we need to think about this, how we're able to continue our commitments in front of our people, because as the civil society, our role to be awake and looking forward and continue our work, even from exile or inside the country. But we also still we have many brave people inside Azerbaijan, and nobody is secure under this revolving door, but we hope under our strong advocacy, solidarity campaigns around the world, we're able to release back. Still, we need solidarity also from political decision makers. As again, as EU is like supposed to more than 40 European leaders supposed to make handshake with Aliyev, at least if half of them tomorrow and day after tomorrow on European political community meeting ask Aliyev, okay, could you start work on progress with the civil rights it's on your own interest, it's on the interest of your country. We will see, but we need to continue it, we will not give up. Again, if we don't have questions, maybe we can conclude our speeches, and we have still 10 minutes. If any of you have questions.
Maybe just a quick question. I'm sorry I arrived late, so maybe you addressed that. But I was wondering, is the war in Ukraine? Sorry. I repeat. So I'm so sorry if you addressed this question already. I arrived late, but I was wondering, is the war in Ukraine impacting, the way the government is controlling freedom of expression? I mean, freedom is not freedom of expression, but expression in Tajikistan, and how people talk about the war in Ukraine. Is the government is trying to frame the narrative of journalists on how the people view the war in Ukraine.
Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I'm Azerbaijan. Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry. I'm Sebastian Piros. I'm the director of Central Japan, George Washington University.
Thank you. Situation with Ukraine, again, it's changed situation in Azerbaijan because, as I say, our European partners, our partners in the European Union, focus all his attention on Ukraine since the invasion started from Russia against Ukraine. And before Ukraine, we have another issues with when Belarus have a brave story in 2020. Imagine, again, all EU who's supposed to also support Azerbaijan program, they said, well, let us focus on Belarus in 2020. After 2022, we have situation with Ukraine, and again, lack of attention, and first of all, how this affected to all situation with civil rhythms. EU start to be more dependent from oil and gas because sanctions, and even it's peanuts compared with Russian gas export. Azerbaijan provide only in very good scenario 2% of all European gas market needs. Imagine, it's incomparable with Russia. But even for this 2%, EU officials start to give credits to Aliyev, to make handshakes. Ursula von der Leyen, after war started, she made a visit to Azerbaijan last summer. And usually when Azerbaijan gets this kind of high-level meeting, visits, for the previous all EU Commission, President of the European Commission always meet with civil society leaders. We have in our experience that she came, she had only 3 hours meetings with Aliyev, signed MOU on gas, increasing gas export, and right now we have she criticized by European Parliament why you didn't deny to meet with the civil society, apologize. That's what it's like, clear example, if our European leadership supposed to play with Aliyev and ignores the civil society. But we always try to remind them, we are European lawmakers, for guys, we are still here, we're looking forward, and we try to shoulder with European nations, defend democracy, European democracy, and we want to be part of the Europe. But sometimes, even under strong pressure, Azerbaijani civil society continued bravely defend democracy. Some European bureaucrats, under situation with what's happened after Ukraine, decided to compromise with authoritarian or totalitarian leader Aliyev.
Thank you very much for attending our meeting. Thank you very much.
Any
Do you have
questions?
any questions?
No.
No. Thank you very much.